because of the recent feedback on my Wavetracker demo track I uploaded a few weeks ago, I thought I would make a little getting started and how to use the tracker and the basic layout and how to select instruments and how to get started with your first song. Once you install Wavetracker and you open it the first time, this is exactly what you're gonna see. It's gonna come with those 5 preloaded waves and 1 preloaded wave instrument. The basic layout is you have your channels here. Each channel is monophonic, so you can only place 1 single note. So in this case, I can have 12 things playing at the same time, and you can increase and decrease the amounts of modules in the module setup, or not the modules, the amount of channels in the module setup. So let's go to 8 as example. Now we have 8 channels to work with, and in my opinion, especially when starting out new, it's usually better to start with less channels than a lot of them, because it gets really hard to properly manage everything. So if you're using it for this first time, feel free to stay on 3 to 4 channels, like an original Game Boy's example, and you will still be able to make amazing music, but it's just gonna be a little bit easier to manage. So from here on, how do we actually write music? First of all, before we even create our first instrument, I want to talk about frames. As you can see, if I scroll down, we're gonna end up with on the row 63, or in total, because there it starts at 0, 64 steps. You can think as a tracker like a step sequencer. We start at the beginning again. So if we press play, it's gonna roll down and start at the beginning again. So how do we extend this? It's using frames. I can create a new frame. So now I can actually scroll past it and back up. As you can see, I'm scrolling between 2 frames. Knowing this, we can now start inputting our first notes. For us to be able to actually input notes, it's useful to know this octave field here. This is basically telling you in which octave you're gonna input your notes, because the Wavetracker is using your computer keyboard as a piano keyboard. So as example, now I'm gonna press Q, W, E, and R, and T, and so on. I can enter the notes with my keyboard. Now if I decrease the octave by 1, I'm entering the notes 1 octave deeper. So it's really useful to just keep those in mind. You can change those around all the time. There is also shortcuts about basically everything here, but for now we're just focusing on clicking it with the mouse and not diving too deep. So let's enter our first few notes. I'm going to use channel 6 as my bass channel. So I'm going down to octave 2. And I'm pressing the record button, or toggle into the edit mode. Now you can see the cursor is turning red, which means I'm now inputting notes whenever I press a button. So now if I play it back, we entered an E3. Now if I want to cancel the note on trackers, you usually have to enter a note to start playing the instrument, and you have to explicitly tell it to stop playing another instrument. So in this case, I'm going to press the 1 button on my keyboard, the number 1. This will enter this line here, which stops the instrument. So now we can start creating a little progression. now we have that little progression here. And as we can see, it's only like half the length of our frame. So we can go ahead, drag our mouse cursor over it. We can copy the whole thing. We can move our cursor to the step where we want to place it. Now if I press paste, it's going to paste the whole sequence on the step 32, which is half of 64, or 63 in this case. So I have a full frame with this progression. Maybe want to spice it up a little bit, and instead of an F3, now we're in the second, like in the frame 01. I'm going to delete that one for now because we don't need it. We're just gonna stay in a single frame for now. So we have our baseline finished. But what if we want to change the instrument we're using? So let's go ahead and just create a new wave. I'm gonna use the wave 20 for this. I want a triangle wave to be my sound for this. So once I select the triangle wave here in the presets, you can see it's the triangle wave now. But if we play back again, I'm still playing the sine wave. So if I go into the instrument, click this add envelope button, I can add the wave envelope, which is allowing me to automate which wave we want to use. In this case, I'm just going to use one single step, and this allows me, you can see it here and you can see it while dragging, to put it to the step 20. I can also just enter 20 here. And now if we play it back, it's using the wave 20. And we can modify it in real time. So now we might want to add drums. For this, it's really easy to do if we just add drum samples. For this, on our instrument bank on the right side here, we have two different kinds of adding new instruments or adding new content. The left button is adding a new wave instrument, and the right side one, the orange one, is adding a new sample instrument. The difference is a wave instrument will use one of those waves in our wave bank up here, and samples will require you, if we create a new one, to import an audio sample. So in my case, I'm going to add then a kick sample. We can preview it by clicking on it. Also on the top here, you can see the path in where it is saved. It's usually the root direction of the tracker where you placed it. So I'll make sure to drag your wave samples you want to use into those directories. I'm going to select the kick now, and we can see the bass key to use is a C4. So now let's go to channel 8, which I'm going to use for the kick. I'm going back to octave 4. And now I'm going to enter the kick, having the new instrument highlighted. So let's create. And we can copy paste it again. Right now I just used Control C and Control V. I think our bass can use a little bit more grit, so I can mutate it a little bit, which is just gonna add a little bit of fuzz. Yep, I like that. So let's add a snare now. We can create a new instrument. We can select a new snare. And now we can enter the snare. And now comes the really cool part about trackers. I am not limited to one instrument per track. So I could enter the snare. Whoops. I could enter the snare on channel 7, but I don't want to do that because it will take up unnecessary amounts of channels. So let's just input it into channel 8. Whoops, that's one too early. Oh wait. Now we have a nice rhythm, so let's add a hi-hat sample too, to give it a little bit more groove. Let's copy that, whoops, and paste it, and we can copy and paste it again. Now, this is sounding really nice already, but I think the hi-hat is a little bit too static, and I don't like that. Now we're going to use a new row, and that's this row. This one is entering the note, this one is entering the instrument like on the side, and this one is used for entering the volume of the tracks you're using right now. It goes from 0 to 99, which is basically 100. So let's just make it sound a little bit more swingy by lowering one to 40 and the other one to 70. Then we go to 40, then we go to 70, 40, 70, 40, 70. Whoops. This one. Actually, let's go 70, 40, 70, 40, 70, 40, 70, 40. So it's always the louder one on the downbeat. This is adding a lot of groove right now. So let's copy paste it here again. I think this sounds great. But I think the bass line could be a little bit groovier. So why not go in and add a few funny additional effects? And on trackers, effects are very special. They are not used like any typical kind of effects you would use in like FL Studio, Ableton Live, Logic Pro, but they're more of an MIDI effect or sequencing effect. In Ableton, you would call an effect reverb, a compressor, adding delay, or anything of that kind. In trackers, it's more like adding portamento to your notes, or fading the volume, or adding an arpeggio. So in this case, why not use a few note glides to make it a little bit more groovy? Alright, I just wanted to fix the melody a little bit. Now let's create a note fall to add a little bit of spice. We enter effects on the last row here. first one is always telling you which effect we are using. I will create a little cheat sheet for you all to use, and I will put it in the description. I will also display it right now for you to see. Right now I'm using the original wavetracker.org documentation. There is a reference with the effect list, which is really useful, which I personally really recommend you to look into. I will put the most important ones into the cheat sheet though, which you can just print or open on a second monitor to remember. Now we want to down pitch it a little bit. So we are going to add 2 for the down pitch. And we're gonna enter 200 to stop it, because it would just keep going even on the next note. So we have to enter the effect to start it and stop it. On this one, I want to add vibrato to create a little bit of modulation for the pitch, so it sounds a little bit more interesting. So we're gonna go 4. And here, like you can see on the cheat sheet or on the documentation, it's defined that the first number we enter is the speed of the vibrato, and the second one is the depth, so how much it's gonna swing. So let's enter 4 and 4. If we want it to glide faster, we can increase the speed. So let's go to 8. And if we want to decrease the amount of it, we can just put that one to 2 as example. Now let's add some portamento there. It's gonna be 3. Let's make it 8. We can also delay the pause a little bit more. I think it's gonna... This is sounding really nice already. But I think what's really missing here, besides a melody, is adding some chords. So let's create a new wave instrument to add the chords. We are gonna use the wave number 2, which is... Actually, let's use wave number 3. Wave number 3. We can edit it here again. We enter 3. Now our new instrument is using wave number 3. We could go ahead and enter our notes. Oops. Like this. Now this is way too loud. So how do we actually decrease the volume without entering a value each time? We can go into the instrument, add an envelope, and add a volume envelope. Now, if we only put it at one length, we can control the volume of the chord stack, but we can also make it longer. Like, let's drag it like this, and now we can draw a little shape. Now you can hear it's actually creating a little envelope for us. This is sounding really nice. Now let's sequence this a little bit more. Now this is sounding really, really nice too. So, but I think it's still a little bit too loud and it's decaying too slowly. So I'm just gonna increase the attack here a little bit and keep it going for longer. Also I can make it a little bit less harsh by introducing the waves slower. Now, it wouldn't be chiptune if we didn't add one of those nice cutesy little arpeggios. So let's create a new wave instrument. We're gonna go for the envelope number 5 here, which is gonna be that really, really tight PWM kind of. So now let's add a volume envelope for this one too. We can make that one a little bit quicker. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting and add another envelope, and this time we use arpeggio. Now for our last addition, let's add a nice, cute and expressive lead. For this one, I won't add a volume envelope. I will go to add a wave envelope again. This time we're gonna use wave 4. And I will add a volume envelope, but only one step, to turn down the volume a little bit. Now with this, we created our first little frame. Now, as we did before, we can now create a new one. Now we have a little bit of a nicer progression with 2 of them here. We can go ahead, select all. Whoops, no. We go ahead, select all, copy. Increase pattern, whoops, go to the beginning again and paste everything again, and we can create some variation. Have a little progression. This sounds cool. This sounds really nice, and this is basically everything there is to it. You will just use all your channels to the most you can, like we did with our drums here, and you can create really cool little chiptunes or other kinds of music. You can import desktop class synth samples into your instrument bank and make EDM with it if that's what you really desire. I personally think this wave-ish sound really fits that kind of retro vibe with the clarity of modern synthesis. I think it sounds really good and it's really intuitive and easy to use. And I hope this little tutorial was helpful for you. If you got any questions, ask them in the comments. This is really my first more than 20 seconds long tutorial on how to do anything. So if this is something you enjoy and you want to see more of, let me know in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. And I hope you enjoyed. This is basically everything you need to know to start writing music with Wavetracker. I think it's a really, really good software. I'm very grateful. It's free to get. If you enjoy it, make sure to pay the developer a little bit of extra cash. You can actually donate on the download page. I will link it everything into the description. Make sure to tell him this is an amazing product. I'm really grateful for it. And I hope you learned something useful today.